July 19, 1936, Barcelona, Spain. Workers storm military barracks with bare hands. Within 48 hours, they've defeated a military coup. They don't hand power back to the government. They don't wait for elections. They abolish money. They burn the banks. They take over the factories, the hotels, the restaurants, the transportation system, everything. For the next year, Barcelona becomes the most radical experiment in human history. 2 million people living without bosses, without police, without private property. George Orwell arrives 6 months later. He walks through the streets in complete shock. Everyone wears workers' clothes. There are no rich, no poor. Waiters look you in the eye as equals. Tipping is considered an insult. He writes, "I had dropped into an era where capitalism didn't exist. This was something I had never seen before. I knew it could happen. I didn't know it had happened." Barcelona, 1936, the revolution that almost changed the world. But here's what they don't teach you in history class. This revolution didn't fail because of Franco's fascists. It didn't collapse because of military defeat. It was destroyed from the inside, by the people who were supposed to be on the same side, by communists, by socialists, by the Republican government fighting alongside them against fascism. This is the story of how Barcelona became a city without rulers, and how it all fell apart in 8 brutal days in May 1937. Let me take you to Spain in 1936. It's a country divided. On one side, conservatives, monarchists, the Catholic Church, the military, and wealthy landowners. On the other side, workers, peasants, anarchists, socialists, and communists. They hate each other. Violence has been building for years. July 17, 1936. Military generals launch a coup. They're trying to overthrow the democratically elected Republican government. General Francisco Franco leads the uprising from Morocco. The military thinks they'll control Spain in days. They're wrong. In most of Spain, the coup succeeds, but in Barcelona and other major cities, workers fight back. And in Barcelona, something extraordinary happens. The anarchists have been organizing in Barcelona for decades. They have unions, they have networks, they have weapons hidden away. When the coup starts, they don't wait for the government to save them. They take to the streets. July 19, 1936, the Battle of Barcelona. Workers attack military barracks. They have hunting rifles, old pistols, dynamite from construction sites. The military has machine guns and trained soldiers. It should be a massacre. It isn't. The workers fight with desperate courage. They lose hundreds of people, but they don't break. They storm the barracks. They overwhelm the soldiers through sheer numbers and determination. By the evening of July 20th, Barcelona is theirs. And here's where it gets interesting. The exilics expect the workers to hand power back. After all, they've just saved the Republic. They've defeated the fascist coup. Now things should go back to normal, right? The anarchists say no. They've been preparing for this moment for years, decades. Anarchism isn't just an idea to them. It's a movement, a way of life. And now they have a city. So they start the revolution. The CNT, the anarchist trade union, has 1.5 million members in Catalonia. The FAI, the anarchist federation, coordinates everything. Within days, they've transformed Barcelona completely. They collectivize the factories. The workers take them over. They elect committees to run them. No more bosses, no more owners. The workers decide what to produce, how to produce it, and how to distribute the profits. They take over the trains, the buses, the trams. Transportation is free. They paint the vehicles red and black, the anarchist colors. Signs everywhere say the services belong to the people. They collectivize hotels and restaurants. The Ritz Hotel becomes a workers' cafeteria. The fancy restaurants still serve meals, but to everyone, at equal prices or for free. The workers who used to serve the rich now eat beside them. They abolish tipping. Seriously, tipping is considered degrading, an insult to human dignity.
You don't tip someone for serving you because they're not beneath you. They're your equal. Money doesn't disappear entirely, but its power is broken. Many places don't accept it. They use vouchers, ration cards, or just give things away. The idea of profit becomes almost obscene. George Orwell arrives in December 1936. He comes to fight against fascism. He's a socialist, sympathetic to communist ideas, but when he walks through Barcelona, he's stunned. He writes about it in Homage to Catalonia. His descriptions are incredible. Everyone wears workers' clothes, blue overalls, militia uniforms. There are no suits, no ties, no fancy dresses. The visual distinction between rich and poor has vanished because the distinction itself has vanished. The way people talk is different. They use comrade instead of sir. They use the informal tu instead of the formal usted. This might not sound important, but in 1930 Spain, it's revolutionary. The language itself had reinforced class hierarchy. Now that hierarchy is gone. Laiters don't bow. Shop workers don't grovel. Everyone looks you in the eye. Orwell finds this thrilling and slightly disconcerting. He's never experienced a world where everyone treats everyone else as an actual equal. Churches are burned or converted. The anarchists are fiercely anti-religious. They see the Catholic Church as having sided with oppression for centuries. Churches become warehouses, community centers, garages. Priests flee or hide. The police force is disbanded. The anarchist militias patrol the streets. Crime drops dramatically. The anarchists believe crime comes from inequality and poverty. Remove those, and crime disappears. For a while, it seems to work. Revolutionary tribunals replace courts. The death penalty is abolished. Even fascist prisoners are sometimes given the choice to join the workers or leave the city. The revolution isn't gentle, but it's trying to be something different than what came before. Women gain unprecedented freedom. The anarchist women's organization, Mujeres Libres, fights for equality. Women join militias. They work in factories. Divorce becomes easy. Abortion becomes legal. This is 1936, decades before most of the world accepts these ideas. And here's the thing, it works. Kind of. The factories keep producing, the trains run on time, the city functions, people are fed. The militias hold the front lines against Franco's forces. But there are problems. Big problems.
First, the war. Franco isn't going away. He has the military. He has support from Hitler's Germany and Mussolini's Italy. They're sending weapons, planes, troops. The fascists are organized, professional, and ruthless. The anarchist militias are brave but chaotic. They elect their officers. They debate strategy in meetings. They refuse traditional military discipline. This makes them effective in street fighting, but terrible in conventional war. Second, not everyone in Barcelona is an anarchist. The socialists and communists hate what's happening. They see the anarchists as naive, chaotic, dangerous. They want a centralized war effort, a traditional government, a disciplined army. The Soviet Union is sending aid to the Republic, weapons, advisors, supplies. But Stalin doesn't support the anarchist revolution. He hates it. He wants a conventional, Soviet-friendly socialist government in Spain, and he's willing to destroy the anarchists to get it. Third, the anarchists themselves are divided. Some want to focus on the revolution. Others want to focus on winning the war first. They argue endlessly, make decisions slowly, struggle to coordinate with the government and other anti-fascist groups. By early 1937, tensions are unbearable. The communists grow stronger. Soviet aid flows to communist units. They build a disciplined army. They consolidate power. They start undermining the anarchists at every turn. The government in Valencia, the Republican capital, wants Barcelona under control. They see the anarchist revolution as a liability, an embarrassment, something that scares off potential allies like Britain and France. They start taking back territory, slowly, carefully.
They take control of strategic buildings. They impose government authority. They rebuild the police force. The anarchists resist, but they're torn. They don't want to fight their anti-fascist allies. They want to focus on Franco, but they're losing control of their own revolution. May 1937, it all falls apart. The government tries to take control of the telephone exchange in Barcelona. The anarchists control it. The government says this is about military security. The anarchists say it's about power. May 3, 1937, government forces attack the telephone exchange. The anarchists defend it. Within hours, fighting spreads across Barcelona. It's not workers against fascists anymore. It's workers against government forces, anarchists against communists, revolutionaries against revolutionaries. Barricades go up all over the city. The same streets where anarchists fought the military coup 10 months earlier become war zones again. But now they're fighting people who are supposed to be on their side. The fighting lasts 8 days. Hundreds die. It's confused, bitter, and tragic. George Orwell is there. He's on the anarchist side, manning barricades, completely bewildered by what's happening. The government, backed by communists, wins. They have better weapons, better organization, Soviet support. The anarchists stand down, trying to preserve the broader anti-fascist alliance. But it's over. The revolution is dead. The government cracks down. They ban the POUM, a small Marxist party allied with the anarchists. They arrest its leaders. They dissolve anarchist militias. They centralize everything under government control. Orwell barely escapes Spain. The secret police are hunting POUM members and their sympathizers. He flees across the border, shocked and disillusioned. The official story becomes the anarchists and POUM were fascist agents, traitors undermining the war effort. Stalin's propaganda machine spreads this lie, and many people believe it. The truth is different. The communists, following Stalin's orders, systematically destroyed the anarchist revolution because it threatened Soviet interests. They sacrificed the most radical anti-fascist movement in history to consolidate their own power. And here's the bitter irony. It didn't help. Destroying the anarchists didn't save the Republic. Franco still won. By 1939, the war was over. Fascism controlled all of Spain. Hundreds of thousands were dead. Franco ruled until 1975. The anarchist revolution in Barcelona lasted less than a year. But what a year! For that brief moment, one of Europe's major cities operated without the structures we're told are necessary for society to function. No police keeping order, no bosses organizing production, no government controlling everything. And it worked. Imperfectly, chaotically, but it worked. The factories produced, the trains ran, people were fed, life continued. And for those who were there, it was intoxicating. The sense that human society could be organized differently, that hierarchy wasn't inevitable, that freedom and equality weren't just dreams. 40 countries sent volunteers to fight in Spain, tens of thousands of them. They came because they saw fascism rising and wanted to stop it. But many came because they heard about Barcelona, about the revolution, about a place where workers actually controlled their own lives. They came from America, Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Russia. Writers, workers, intellectuals, adventurers. Ernest Hemingway was there, Martha Gellhorn, André Malraux, Simone Weil. They wrote about what they saw, some with admiration, some with horror, all with fascination. The international brigades fought bravely. Many died. Those who survived and returned home carried the story of Barcelona with them, what they'd seen, what had been possible, however briefly. But the story was buried. The Soviets wanted it forgotten because it contradicted their narrative about how socialism should work. The Western powers wanted it forgotten because it scared them. Even many on the left wanted it forgotten because it was too radical, too chaotic, too threatening to their own visions of change. Franco's regime certainly wanted it forgotten. For 40 years, Spain was a fascist dictatorship. Speaking about the anarchist revolution could get you imprisoned or killed. The history was suppressed, documents destroyed, survivors silenced. Only after Franco's death in 1975 could people openly discuss what happened, and even then it remained obscure, a footnote in history books, a curiosity, something that happened once and proved that such experiments don't work. But did it prove that? Or did it prove that such experiments threaten the powerful so much that they'll destroy them at any cost? The anarchists in Barcelona made mistakes, huge mistakes. They were too idealistic, too disorganized, too unwilling to compromise. Their refusal to create a centralized military command weakened the fight against Franco. Their infighting was self-destructive. But they also created something remarkable, a society based on cooperation rather than competition, on equality rather than hierarchy, on freedom rather than control. And for the people who lived through it, even briefly, it was transformative. There's a reason George Orwell's Homage to Catalonia remains powerful. It's not just about the Spanish Civil War. It's about the possibility of human societies organized around principles other than power and profit. It's about idealism meeting reality and the tragedy that results.
The question isn't whether the anarchist revolution in Barcelona was perfect. It wasn't. The question is whether it proved something impossible or whether it proved something powerful people couldn't allow to continue. Because here's what they don't want you to understand. For 1 year, in one city, the supposed laws of economics and politics were suspended. People organized production without bosses telling them what to do. They maintained order without police forcing them to comply. They distributed resources without money determining who got what. And it worked. Not perfectly, not sustainably in the context of a civil war and international opposition, but it worked. That terrifies people in power, because if it could work once, it could work again. If 2 million people in Barcelona could organize themselves without rulers, what does that say about the necessity of rulers? So the story was buried, forgotten, dismissed as a romantic failure, a naive experiment that proved nothing except that such things can't work. But the people who were there knew differently. The workers who ran the factories, the women who fought for equality, the revolutionaries from 40 countries who came to see something they never thought they'd witness in their lifetimes. They knew they'd touched something real, something possible, something that still haunts the imagination because it suggests that the world doesn't have to be organized the way it is. That's why Barcelona in 1936 matters. Not because it succeeded, not because it created a model we can simply copy, but because it proved that the structures we're told are inevitable, necessary, and natural aren't any of those things. For 1 year, Barcelona showed that another world was possible. And then it showed how viciously those in power, even those supposedly on the side of progress and justice, will fight to prevent that world from existing. Barcelona, 1936, the most dangerous city in Europe. Dangerous not because of violence, though there was plenty. Dangerous because it threatened everything the powerful believed about how society must be organized. Workers without bosses, citizens without police, people without rulers. For 1 year, it was real. And then it was destroyed. Not by the fascists, though they won in the end, by the people who should have been allies, by those who feared the revolution more than they feared Franco. The anarchists lost, Franco won, and for 40 years Spain suffered under dictatorship. But the memory remains, buried in books,
whispered in radical circles, remembered by those who believe another world is still possible. Barcelona, 1936, the year everything changed, and then changed back. But what if it hadn't? What if the revolution had survived? What if it had spread? We'll never know. History took a different path. Fascism won. The revolution died. But for 1 year, in one city, people glimpsed something different, something that still matters today, something that suggests the world doesn't have to be this way. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that brief glimpse is what keeps the possibility alive, the knowledge that it happened once, that it could happen again. Barcelona, 1936, the revolution that was, the revolution that might have been, the revolution that still whispers to us across the decades. What could we build if we truly believed we didn't need rulers? Barcelona almost showed us.